Yes. You caught me dancing again. Hello, Muller. How are you? Are you unmuted? I think, but it's okay. And welcome everyone to our show, Leadership in Flow Asia. This is Ashok from Singapore and Muller from
From KLIA.
KLIA. In fact, not even just KL, but KLIA. And she's on a flight to
Exactly.
somewhere exciting soon, I believe.
Yes. And I'm meeting some exciting people tomorrow. So, for those
Nice.
who have joined us, first and foremost, thank you for joining us. Also, please excuse me for anything that may go wrong, that just give me that feedback. So, Ashok, are you excited? It is actually November. Can you believe it? Our last month
Yes.
for Leadership in Flow Asia.
You just shocked everyone because what do you mean by last month? No, okay, ladies and gentlemen, for all of them, all of you guys who have been following us all this time, the Leadership Flow Asia, right? This is not the last month as we are not stopping, right? But for this year, November will be a wrap for us before we come back in 2024. You just frightened everyone because the Leadership in Flow Asia, right? Ladies and gentlemen, what is this show about? This is a show where we have insights from leaders, where we talk to them about their personal growth, their leadership growth, their business growth, right? And this month is so very exciting because we are talking about mindful leadership. Mindful leadership. And
Yeah.
for this month and today's topic, right, is about mindful talent acquisition. And who do we have on board? Is AiLing Lee. Now, who is AiLing? Now, she's a manager. She's a country director, right, for Malaysia and Indonesia with BTI Executive Search. Now, she's got more than 14 years of experience in Southeast Asia. Yes, she is currently responsible for leading and managing the BTI Executive Search business in Indonesia, Malaysia, and healthcare, and across different type of sectors also within Malaysia and Indonesia. But you know what is exciting about AiLing? We invited her to share her insights during our leadership learning festival. Remember that in August, right? So she was part of a panel, and she shared very great insights with us. And we thought, hey, you know what? Let's bring her on for this show because I think a lot of all of our audience would be benefiting from her insights. So with
Of
that,
course.
Malar, do you have anything else to say
Let's
before we
bring
bring her on?
No, I think AiLing has been a great person to work with because she's very passionate about talent. And, it's really very interesting and exciting to work with her and learn from her because I think she helps us to see talent acquisition at from very different dimensions, right? So, and what's also special about the expertise AiLing brings about, because our program is Leadership in Flow, we're talking about leaders. AiLing and her team specifically look at talent acquisition at the leadership
Hmm.
level, which is why what she's going to say is so relevant. So, without much ado, let me just bring AiLing, who's patiently waiting.
Good
Hey,
evening, all. Hi,
AiLing.
Asho. Hi, Mala. How are you?
Hi, Ling.
Okay.
Yes, I know you're trying to move. Okay, all right, let's go.
Yeah, I get scolded for always being trying to take center stage. Eileen, good evening. Thank you so much. One, for saying yes to um, not just our leadership festival earlier, but I think all the conversation and communication where I think you give your 110%, I would say, in helping us define the content. So thank you very much for your commitment and your team's commitment. Actually, your whole team has been great to work with. So welcome to the show. And how are you?
I'm good, very good. Happy to be here.
Yeah, we're very happy to have you. Okay, Ashok. So, since AiLing is here, right? Today we're talking about mindful leadership. So, the theme for the month of November is mindful leadership. And, since you are into talent acquisition, naturally we want to talk about mindful talent acquisition. Let's start with, what does mindful leadership mean to you? Give us a bit of a brief of when we talk about mindful, what comes to you, and perhaps we can take it from there.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you so much. So, basically, when I look at the mindful leadership, what's actually come to my mind, and of course, I've done a bit of research online, give you various definitions, but what come into my mind, it's mindful leadership. It's actually fall within the scope of authentic leadership. So in my perspective, if we embrace authentic leadership, being truthful to ourselves, right, as a leader, our peer, our company, our investor, people around us, not necessarily we have to be the perfect person, but because to me, leaders is a journey, right? So long we be truthful about ourselves, in a way, we will be able to attain the essence of mindful leadership, which in short is also cover be present, be objective, be open mind, purposeful, and truthful. So that's come to my mind.
Nice. That's a high order for any human being. Staying true to yourself and true to your purpose. I think it's ideal. It's
Yeah.
ideal, but it's a lot to ask for, and I think we all desire it, but we all know that's the road less traveled, right? So I love the way you say leadership is a journey and we don't need to be perfect. So if we don't need to be perfect, and we all will agree that leadership is indeed a journey, how do you think mindful leadership, and in your definition, mindful simply means to talent acquisition?
Sorry, I lost you
Did
for
you
a bit,
miss
Mala.
me for a while?
Yeah,
Just
I
for a
think the
tad bit,
Yes,
yeah.
yeah.
yeah, I think I also lost myself. Yeah, it's my connection. Mindful leadership or authentic leadership.
Okay, I think Malar is facing some issues. Are you okay now, Malar? Nope.
I'm okay as long as you can hear me. I said, what's the connection between authentic leadership or mindful leadership with talent acquisition? What's the connection that you see, AiLing?
I think in my perspective, when it comes to talent acquisitions, is pretty much being truthful to yourself, right? Be present. What's the need for the positions that we are recruiting for? Be objective in terms of what we are looking to hire. Understanding, for me, it's a ways connecting the triangle, right? So when we recruit for talents, we also need to ensure that everyone in the organization connecting to the visions of the organization. What's the purpose, the direction of organizations? Are we able to have all our members embrace to the directions while at the same time achieving their personal visions? Yeah, so ultimately, the mindful leaderships or authentic leadership is pretty much connecting each other together for the same purpose.
Right. I think you mentioned a triangle. Can you give us a bit more elaboration of your triangle?
That's actually from my perspective, because
Okay.
as a country leaders, as a business leaders, or even in the talent acquisitions, is very important for us to ensure that we know what is the company visions, what is the
Okay.
purpose of the organizations, and how do we integrate our personal value or personal visions into company, right? Not only from the leader perspective, same goes to everyone in the organizations.
Mm.
From there, everyone will be able to see from the same perspective, everyone are driving where something is close to us. Rather than
Right.
seeing job as a job, my passion is another thing. Yeah, if we can connect both, which is in idealistic, that's what we want to achieve, although in reality may be very challenging, but ultimately that's how I see it's supposed to be connected as a whole. Of course, if you were to look at broader aspect, we talk about how about society. It's
Mhm.
our work means to the society. So, but before that, let's start with everyone in the organizations. And once everyone aligned, we move on to talk about what can we do for the society. Yeah.
Right, right. So what I'm hearing from you is for talent acquisition, right? When you're looking at being mindful or authentic in that sense, it is important also for the person who is contributing their energy, their efforts into the company to align their
Absolutely.
value to the company's vision,
Yeah.
right? And that is a very important thing. And I think, uh, would you agree that leaders also play a very important part in bridging that and keep facilitating that all the time?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because as a leader, very likely we have better visibility on what is the visions of the organizations better than anyone else. I think it's
Mhm.
certainly leaders play a very important role to ensure that we facilitate to ensure that people are progressively understood, embrace the
Right,
same
right,
visions that what we do. Yeah.
Right, and
as
that
much
takes
as
a lot.
possible.
Yeah, because when we talking about mindful leadership, in case you're wondering where Malar is, she said she's going to be changing Wi-Fi. She'll be coming back, but don't worry, we'll just carry on this conversation without her. So, I
Okay.
mean, no, I do agree with you. Leaders play an extremely important part, and this is where I guess being mindful of the different aspects of the business, from the business results and understanding the people factor, right? And that's where you said the leader has to be truthful, being able to bridge that. And
Absolutely.
it's not easy, but it is important.
It's never easy to balance business and people, to be honest. Yeah, but ultimately, I see the benefit. If we are able to bridge, we will be able to see the value, the result.
When we are able to bridge it, right? And
Correct.
that's where you said
Absolutely.
it's a journey, because it's a journey, is a long term thing, and it's about helping bridge that gap.
Absolutely. So
Yeah,
it's a
not
journey
yeah.
to me.
And I guess that's where leadership also plays a very important part. Or sometimes it's not given enough credit, because people think if you're a leader, it's a title, you got it good. But actually, there's a lot more struggles, isn't it, as a leader?
Well, I don't feel as a struggle. I think
That's nice.
everyone at the leadership side, they do have the visions or the passions to why they're into leadership role. It's always not about being recognized or credit per se. Yeah,
Right, right. So you feel that there's also personal passion in some people,
absolutely.
but
Correct.
in some industries, we have heard also on the rivers where just because they were able to perform, then they were pushed up to a leadership position.
This is very common, especially in the commercial driven environment, because it's very result driven. If you
Mm,
achieve your so-called commercial targets, by default, you will progress,
mm,
right? So whether or not you ask for or that's what you're looking for, chances are that is generally the conventional way of looking at career path. Resulted to there are a lot of probably mismatch of hiring happening at certain level. Yeah, I do agree. There are some organizations where experience the same challenge. That's where, for us as a recruiters, we handle talent acquisition. That's where we step in to support and guide them. Yeah.
Okay, okay.
Mm.
So let's get into that space where you are now mindful and you are helping guide and support the teams, right? Because
Absolutely.
that's important, because you play a very important bridge also, because you're
Mm.
helping the business and you're
Yeah.
bringing in the people to help bridge that gap.
Mm-hmm.
And you guiding them also takes a lot of
Mm-hmm.
effort. you know so let's
Absolutely.
let, let's
Absolutely.
let me maybe start off by breaking that down for our viewers also. So what are some of the trends leaders should take note of in this
Mm-hmm.
region? Let's start off with 2024, because we've seen how things have happened from 2020 right up to 2022, and 2023 has been an exciting year for many people, where they are trying to look for either lost revenue or push for the revenues. And with the tight labor market and high inflation and cost of business is difficult, so on and so forth. So we are coming to the end of the year. I'm sure everyone is doing their reflections and planning for 2024. Right? So let's
Mm-hmm.
start from there. What are some of the trends that leaders should take note of to be better equipped in 2024 for talent acquisition?
Absolutely. So thanks, Asha. So you have covered in terms of the business aspect at the macro level, which many a times beyond the leader's control. For example, like political situations, AI adoptions, it would be there, or ESG. But if you were to zoom into talent acquisitions perspective, I think that's one aspect where we can actually zoom in, especially from the social aspect, because it covers the demographic and also involve the complexity of generations. Again, talent acquisitions is all about human, right?
Okay,
So
okay,
from the macro level, let's zoom into the social aspect. There are a
okay.
lot of research area from the consulting firm, or even my organizations also carry out some of the trending that happening now that potentially will continue next year. So maybe I can break it down. Like for example, recently I chanced upon the reports published by Deloitte. It talks
Okay.
about the pre and post pandemic, and how the research itself conducted across 44 countries, over 22,000 Generation Z and Millennial. Now, the reason why I mention so is because eventually our labor market will be dominated by them. So it's very important
Okay.
for us to understand exactly what are their considerations when it comes to job seeking, what are the evolving connections they see with their work. In
Okay.
general, basically for the Gen Z or Gen Millennial themselves, throughout the last 2019 to 2023, we have observed that they sort of feel that they get the satisfactions from the employment market.
Okay.
However, they still feel there are a lot of aspects where employees can do better, right? Simply because they are the generations where they are exposed to a lot of technologies. They are the group of generations where they embrace environmental.
Okay. Okay.
If we can relate to the progress of the market right now, we talk about AI adoptions,
Okay.
machine learning, we talk about ESG, right? All these changes are gearing to welcome the next generations into the workforce. Yeah, the reason why we need to change is because, like what I mentioned earlier, eventually they will probably dominate the majority of the labor market. Yeah, so which means from talent acquisition perspective, we need to tune in, right? Area where interest to them, especially organizations embrace ESG, organizations that probably talk about health and well-being, which is not a common topics prior pandemic. Yeah, so yeah, these are the trends that we are actually looking at, and it's important for talent acquisition to take notes about what interests them and eventually to connect them better.
Okay, so
Yeah.
okay, so this is very interesting, AiLing, because you earlier on mentioned, apart from Deloitte, right? Deloitte's research, right? We're also talking about your company also providing some materials research. Do let us know so at least we can put it up on our site and inform all our viewers, right? Because we'll be interested to hear from your point of view, because you have boots on the ground, you understand what's happening, you know. The pestle analysis, yes. No, we're still
this
on
is
question number 2.
about the Deloitte. Yeah,
This is the one.
So
That's right.
there's a link that everyone can just log in and read further. That's a lot of informative information for us to understand about Gen Z and millennial.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, this is interesting. So what you're sharing is it is important for organizations to be able to understand these trends, right? Because what you're saying is, yes, the future, if you look at the future employment landscape, it's going to be filled up with, I mean, it's already with millennials, and we're going to have Gen Zs coming in more, right? So these are the main demographics that's going to be there. Okay. Now, while they're there, what do they care more about? So what you're saying is what they care about is being in a purpose-driven organization.
Absolutely.
They care a lot about environmental concerns, you know, and also DEI in that sense, in terms of diversity, equity, inclusion, you know, something very, very important for them. And these are some of the conversations that has not happened before, right? Which is now happening. Even total well-being, mental well-being in that sense, right? So we're coming to a space where these are trends you need to look at, even in the talent acquisition space. Right?
Absolutely. Either in the talent acquisitions space, or rather gearing the organization's culture towards that directions.
Fair enough. Now, of course, my question then would be, what is the time frame? Because there might be a certain time frame for different countries, like in Malaysia and Indonesia, it could be different. Because in Indonesia, we've got a very young population. So yes, I can see a lot more Gen Zs and millennials in there. Malaysia, I'm not too sure what the mix is like. Like, say, for example, in Singapore, yes, you have a younger population, but I think the workforce still has more boomers, Gen Xs in there, you know? So I guess different countries, they are different demographics in that sense. So from a time frame point of view, as much as talent acquisition, we are looking at what the Gen Zs would be caring about more. What about how we bring them to collaborate with the existing group of people? Is that going to be an important consideration also?
I think that's certainly important, because part of the Generation Z or millennial, they are looking for a purposeful career.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's no longer about opportunity or job perspective or just a paycheck, but what they are looking for, it's really the social aspect of it. Yeah, so if we can get them involved to probably pave out the next culture for the whole organization landscape or even in the employment landscape, I think that will certainly be exciting about. Yeah, so timeline wise, if you ask me, I think it's already started. Just
Fair
that
enough.
during the
Fair enough.
pandemic, it actually fast forward the whole process. And technically, maybe in the next 5 years or so, we should be able to achieve then before we talk about the alpha baby into the workforce. They
Alpha
come with a
babies.
completely different aspect that,
No, fair enough.
again,
Fair enough.
organizations will need to evolve. Yeah.
Okay. No, I hear that. Before Mala jumps in for the next question, I hear that. Okay, so in my head, I'm asking another question is, okay, so if you look at the economy itself, predominantly SMEs drive the economy.
Yep.
Right? Now, at the MNC space, I get it when you say they got to look into the Gen Zs and where the future is going to be and all of that. But for the SMEs, right, it's about today. The pressures are about today. When you talk about ESG sustainable, they say, hey, I want to be sustainable first. I don't care about the environment as much, but I cannot talk about it, right? But they also need to attract the new generation. So would you say that could be some of the struggles SME leaders are having?
Absolutely, absolutely. They will struggle in terms of getting the younger generation to join them. Yeah. So again, it doesn't mean that they need to run a very big event on the ESG. It can be on the different scale. Yeah.
Right.
It can be on the different scale. Yeah. So again, it's also depending on the business priorities, especially in startup. It's tough to talk about ESG. It's tough to talk about what they do to probably fit into the younger generations. I think first thing first, when you run business, is really the profitability in the first few years and the sustainability. Until you reach a certain level, then we can talk about what's next. Yeah. Again, if you talk about SME, chances are they may be at the stage where they are lack of resources. They may not have the time to train the younger generations. Hence, buying talents at that stage could be higher. Yeah, because they need to acquire knowledge to drive the business forward. Yeah, so hence we see more on the ESG related happening in the MNC space because they do have the resources, they do have the right structure to be able to provide that platform.
Yeah, fair enough. So I'm going to separate out the question. I'm going to remove the SME fellas for a while.
Yeah.
It's so sad because I actually love them and I feel a lot of pain for them. But for the MNCs, right? The MNC leaders, right? So you say they have the deeper pocket, they have the ability, they have the bandwidth. But what are some of the struggles that these leaders experience, right? Because now they need to optimize effectiveness for immediate business results and future business growth. Right?
Absolutely. It's not easy.
So how do they then, what are some of the struggles that you're seeing these leaders going through?
Well, even myself as a business leader, because I run the P&L for Malaysia, Indonesia, to strike a balance, it's never easy, but both short-term and long-terms are essential for the business sustainability. So we have the stakeholders to answer about. We need to ensure that the investor, employees, customer confidence are maintained while continue to expand our market share. So some of the common struggle, right, like what I mentioned earlier, it's really the limited resources that we have. How can we strategically allocate our resources effectively? It's always a struggle, right? It's always a dilemma. Yeah, so whether are we going to put in more into the talent acquisitions part, or are we going to invest more on the talent development piece? Yeah, so that is a part where it's always the struggle, and we talk about talent acquisitions and retentions, right? We need people in the organizations.
Okay. This is interesting because this, what you're saying is the struggle now from a business point of view, because I've got my resources, I've got my P&L to look into. So then the question is, do I bring in the talent, right, today to help me get those results, or do I focus on developing my current group of people?
Yeah.
Which could also means time.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
But let's say where you want to look at long-term morale and long-term continuity and all, is there a quick fix to be able to develop talent to bring you to a level of very good people, striking a in that sense.
Well, I think when it comes to quick fix, when we talk about talent acquisitions, many a times there's no shortcut,
Okay.
right?
Got it.
Yeah. So again, the quick fix is always have the right hire. So in order to have the right hire, first thing first, as a leader, we need to have a clarity exactly what is the business visions, short term and long term. So from there, we will be able to derive whether are we going to get the resources right now, or some of the resources can be trained, can be grown. So which are the department or functions that we should buy talent? Which are the
Right.
functions or department that we can grow talent? Because it's all
Okay.
depending on the resources that we have in the organizations. Yeah,
Okay.
correct.
So
It's also depending on different phases of the organizations. If you were to go back to the SME or the startup organizations, clearly it's all about now. We need to buy talents.
right.
Yeah. So if you talk about MNC, the structure is there despite they have limited resources, but the resources is sufficient enough for them to grow talent.
Right. So again, it's going to be the dichotomy between that decision making, right? Do I now
Yeah.
get him talents today, right, to grow a
Yeah.
certain part of the business, or or grow my people itself? But could there be another solution where you bring in a talent with the intent to develop the current group of people?
Absolutely. Yeah. So that's certainly possible because for those highly experienced people, what we found in the markets are always happy to cascade down or to share their knowledge to younger generations. Yeah.
Right. Because they are at the people developer phase in their life.
Absolutely. Yeah. Correct.
Okay.
So that is the part where we can see a lot of, even for the role in the market right now, it's evolved. So no longer just doing our core job. So many a time we realize that a specific functions probably come, a role probably come with different functions as by default, this is your core job. The secondary, it's you be the coach for the younger members in the organizations or someone who are interested to grow. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Mother, you have a question.
Yeah. Glad to be back, by the way. Okay.
Go away.
So yeah, I was away. Yeah, I can see that AiLing kept you on your toes, that you didn't realize I was missing. But AiLing, I think I probably missed a little bit, but what I'm getting from you is that we seem to be balancing the need to survive, to striving to thriving. So that the three phases of any businesses, right? Whether it's an SME or MNC, right? Of course, with MNCs or larger organization, if they've been longer and more established, then chances of them being in the survival mode is lesser, which means that they don't really have to look at or be so tied down to short term. But you still have to bring numbers for sustenance currently, right? You say that, and you
That's a
actually,
reality in the business world. Yeah, absolutely.
that's
Yeah.
right. Yeah, I mean, as much as we can have all the ideals and say, I want to develop people, I'm ideal, we're vision oriented, but we need to put food on the table, right? And I think that's important that you say it, because I think a lot of times when it comes to leadership, we think leadership is about keeping to the vision and the ideals, while we are not reminded of the struggle. So while you put out the struggle, yes, and what you also very well did is that I like the way you say, everything is about, depending on where we are as a business and what is required for the business, our mindset and our action towards talent acquisition and talent development also moves along with that, right? So on
Absolutely.
one hand, you have got business reality. On the other hand, you have talent that is required to grow the business in whatever space they want to be, right? But at the same time, right, we are saying that all of these decisions are going to be made by leaders. How much of clarity do leaders actually, in your opinion, right? So when you look at hiring managers, how much of clarity do hiring managers have about these things that you're talking about? Or is it just, let's just find the right fit immediately, or buy talent immediately, because that seems to be the easy fix, right? So yeah, really tell us first, how much clarity do you think hiring managers today have in your experience?
Well, I would say there are many hiring managers has got very strong visions and clarity in terms of how they are driving the business forward. Certainly, there are also leaders where they are lack of clarity in terms of what they are looking for in the business, especially during the last 3 years because of the sudden change of the markets. So a lot of leaders are clueless exactly how do we still forward with the business, right? What will happen in future? And of course, there are some leaders lack of clarity because there are change in terms of structure, business directions. Hence, for them, they're still figuring out exactly how to achieve and eventually hire the right talents. So I do have experience dealing with very visionary leaders, and I do have experience working with leaders who probably lack of clarity, and certainly it will impact in terms of getting the right hire because as a talent or job seeker per se, when we look for opportunity, of course, we are looking for leaders that have got the right or clear directions on where the business is heading forwards. Even if they may not be clear, how can we work together towards the same directions? Even buying talent sometimes, if they don't see the visions, they may not be tuned in to that opportunity. Yeah.
And
So,
as I'm listening to you, I'm also wondering, right? Like, if I am in the space of buying talent, let's assume I have the resources to buy talent, right? But you did mention about the young generation, and the young generation is looking for purpose and is looking for growth, right?
Yep.
How does buying talent fit that the needs of the younger generation, in your opinion? How do we find the
Uh,
right fit in that sense?
Okay, so basically buying talents in a way that we usually buy for someone who come with a specific skill sets that needed for us to turn around the business. And usually it's very time sensitive where company doesn't have time to train, or maybe they do not have the expertise to train the talents, hence we are buying the talents. Yeah, so as compared to younger generations, usually younger generations will result into positions where business will have the resources to train them or to grow them, or probably already with subject matter expert in the organizations. Yeah, so probably that will bring me into what we have seen a lot lately, or probably during the pandemic, where hiring managers are start looking for someone that can plug and play, which buying talents that someone come with exactly the right skill sets that required for the business. Yeah, so we experience a lot because, like what I mentioned earlier, during the pandemic itself, we don't have time. We unsure what to do. We need someone who are really expert to drive the business forward. Yeah, and usually it happens in a fast-paced industry or situations where decisions need to be made quick. Yeah, so that's where resulted to companies start hiring for plug and play talent, which is buying talents per se. Yeah, so or probably company going through some pushback in the markets where they need to turn around the business. There's no time for us to train someone to help us to turn around the business. Yeah, so that's where we start buying talent. With that, then we will also have the subject matter in the organizations to start training the younger generation. Yeah.
I think what you're saying sounds ideal, I think, in terms of what can be done. But what's your take on, we understand during the change or the pandemic, everyone was in survival mode, right? After a while, because it was a long time that we needed to be in survival mode. Now that we seem to have so called returned to whatever we call as a new normal, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you actually see us moving forward, even if we had the resources to not plug and play only, but to actually train and develop? Do you actually see that trend among leaders?
We do see the trends that happening in the markets, but usually plug and play is only happens or applicable to certain business critical positions. But it doesn't mean that across on all the hiring. Yeah, usually it
Right.
happens to the business leader or technical or functional leaders. or especially into a sector where the organizations may have lack of resources to grow or lack of expertise to grow. Yeah, but
Right.
generally, largely, some of the role are still where organizations prefer to give opportunity to internal people. That's where the growing talents come in.
Nice, nice. So in making the right choice, I think what you've done is that you've helped us look at the complexity of hiring the right talent or talent development, even though that's ideal, because there's always a war for talent, for the top talent, right? We always say there's not enough right people, so there is this war that is going on for what we call the right talent, right? And that's really
Mhm.
because it's driven by the business needs and the kind of changes that we're experiencing and what it means to actually survive, strive, or thrive, right? Now, tell me, in while it seems clear that these are clarity that leaders need, right? What are some common misjudgments organization
Mm.
make for talent acquisition? So we know what's the right thing to do, yet we may have misjudgments. So tell us a little bit about the misjudgments that you see uh, people experiencing.
We do experience a lot as a recruiter, to be honest. Yeah, even sometimes as a hiring managers, we do fall into the misjudgment simply because what we experience or probably likely familiar to everyone, to be honest, is overly emphasized on technical skills, especially on certain complexity of the requirement of the role. So business tends to focus on technical competency rather than soft skill or culture fit. Yeah, so which means it can lead to hiring a candidates who maybe lack of the necessarily interpersonal skill or culture attributes that required for the success in the business. Yeah, so some of the experience that we encounter as well, where we probably overly confident on our past success or fear of repeating failure, especially in the wrong hire in the past. So we do encounter where companies said, Eileen, do you know what? For these positions, can you get a talent from company A? Or rather, could you please don't get people from company A because we don't have any past success in hiring right from people coming from these organizations. So they already have that preconceived mindset that people coming from company A will not be suitable. Yeah,
Yeah,
so these are the
that's
misjudgment that, yeah,
sure. That sounds like us not being objective or rather biased based on our past successes or past failures. And the past
yeah,
success or past failures could have been contributed by the fact that we did not think about this clearly. We may not
absolutely.
have known what. So what we do is that
Yeah,
since we say it's like buying from a shop or buying a particular brand, you're looking at plug and play. I think I got a hire from this company, so let me try and go and get someone else because it is because they belong to that organization. Is why it was
yes.
successful or vice versa. That's what they're saying. But if what I'm also hearing is that if we put the right thoughts, if we know our criteria, if we are clear about what is required, then chances of us making that mistake is minimized. Number one. Number two is I also liked the fact that we tend to emphasize more on technical skills rather than soft skill and culture fit. Can you tell me, in your experience, why is there a bias towards technical skills, and what is the bias against soft skill and culture? Because I think we talk about it over and over again. There's a lot of research
Yeah.
that says soft skills are important, power skills are important, culture fit is important. We know that, but we're still not making the choice or decision. So tell me, what's your experience in terms of the feedback you've got from the market?
Right. So basically, this is what we experience where the reason why company probably focusing more on the technical skill, like what I mentioned earlier, because they need to acquire that competency. Yeah, so that's where resulted to them when come to decision making on hiring, they sort of like skip towards technical, maybe with the plan that interpersonal skill or culture fit can be fixed later, but let's acquire the technical competency first. Yeah,
Mm.
so that's a part where
Oh,
resulted to them that only focusing on the technical side.
so I understand that. I think technical skills are non-negotiable, but at a leadership level, the assumption is you would have got most of the technical skills, because what happens at your leadership level is that you need to probably be more influential, or rather have your power skills, right? And culture fit, right? Because if you
Absolutely.
don't fit into that culture, then it's not going to be easy to stay focused on the organizational purpose, goals, and vision, right? Because you're not going to. Now, tell me, could how much do you think we take it for granted, right? Because we see the importance for technical skills. Do you think we could be assuming that, or is there a strong assumption that if people are successful in their job functions, they should naturally have the soft skills and the culture fit? Is that how the market thinks about it? Are we undermining the
Well,
importance?
largely, I think there are some of the hiring manager do think that if they are technically sound, chances are they will come with the desired interpersonal skill or fit into the culture. Yeah,
Okay. So there is an assumption that that
there is
does not
assumptions,
that's not
correct.
a record. Yeah, but if you're good at this,
Mhm.
you should also be good at. And I'm sorry, Ashok, I know you're going next, but I want to just drill in a little bit, right? Um, Now, when you look at, I'm sure you would have had experience where clients come to you and talk to you about the mistake or the wrong hiring that has happened when they are just focused on technical skills, right? Do you have a
Mhm.
story or an example where technical skill was more important than, say, cultural fit, and then how it impacted?
Well, to be honest, generally, as much as possible, we are looking for everyone that at least fulfill the technical or the cultural fits. Yeah. So many a times that when companies skewed towards the technical hiring because they're looking at very much short term to turn around a situations. Yeah. So resulted that people may not be able to contribute to the overall company success. So that's where when we step in to support them, okay, look at the bigger picture. Many a times is if you are looking at skill sets of A to C, what are the must have, what are the good to have. Yeah, so for them to decide on what is the requirement for the next talents that in order for the talents to be able to drive the business forward. Yeah. So, but
Okay.
generally, they are still skilled towards technical skill side. I would say maybe not towards the leadership positions, but very much over at the engineering level or technical positions level at the mid management side rather than senior management. Yeah, in terms of overemphasizing the technical skill aspect. Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to
Okay.
follow up from there. I'm going to follow up from there because, but before I follow up, I just want to say hello also to Kim's Gawarang. I hope I got the pronunciation right, Gawarang. Right? Hi, he said hi earlier. So I'm just going to follow up from the last question that Mullers asked. So my follow up question is, in your personal opinion, what is the reason you feel that the people skill or the authentic skill is definitely more important than technical skill?
Well, technical skill can be learned.
Nice.
It's easy to learn, right?
Mm-hmm.
You do a research. So long you have the desire to learn, I
Mm-hmm.
think technical skill can be acquired easier as
Okay.
compared to human skill. If you want to stay true to ourselves, again, we are not perfect, right? I always believe that we fit into specific, different, maybe we may not be fit into any organizations. There are certain organizations where we are able to fit better simply because the culture, the values, the visions we are more connected to.
Mm.
Yeah, so technical skill for me, it's hard skill. So long you're a king, you
You
can
can learn it.
acquire easily. Yeah,
Okay.
correct.
All right. So then I'm going to shift the question a bit because we've been talking about from the corporation's point of view, the MNC's point of view, the organization point of view. Now I want to shift back to the talent itself. Because earlier on we asked ourselves, what are the trends that leaders should be aware about from a talent acquisition point of view? So what about the talent itself? What are the trends that talent should be aware about before they fit
Um,
into an organization?
All right. So basically, for talent perspective, what essentially important to them, right? In terms of the job seeking, it's really looking at the overall company visions and directions.
Okay.
Because many a times that functions or role are relatively similar. Yeah. So what is important to them, it's especially at the senior leadership
Okay.
perspective, what is the medium to long term? Where is the company gearing towards? So that is very important. And how can they essentially value add the expertise that they have to the organizations?
Right. So what you're saying is, from a talent perspective, right? What they need to look into is the company's objectives and how they can value add in that sense. Nice.
Mhm.
So, okay, so going back to the plug and play question, right? So I'm going to challenge Muller a little bit, right? Here. So my question is this. I'm saying, if that plug and play became effective during COVID, what is stopping corporations or organizations to use that going forward? Because we are still in a very uncertain world anyway.
Well, in my perspective, plug and play is certainly able to help us to fix short-term situation because there's a specific skill sets that we are acquired,
Mhm.
but many a time they come with very high price tag.
Okay.
This is
I
first
get that.
expensive. Again, it's back to allocations of resources, right? If you have the resources, then why not we get someone expertise? Great, we get them on board. They help us to fix the business, but what's next for them? Do we have the plan to grow them?
Mm,
It's
mm.
always two-way. When we recruit for talent, it's always two-way. Yes, we acquire knowledge. We want you to probably help us to fix certain things, but what is in turn to the talents? If we have a robust career developments that keep up to their pace, chances are it will work. It
Right.
won't. They may be easily being snatched by other organizations because usually plug and play talents are high performer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Okay.
so
I hear that. I hear that. So I'm going to throw in another argument here, right? Uh, in a world where there's generative AI and companies are looking at tech to create efficiencies, right? Can paying high for a talent today, right, and being very more selective about the ongoing pipeline of talents be a strategy to think about? I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there. That means you have plug and play, then you have technology, and then your future pipelines, right? Can that be a strategy still?
yeah, that will probably one of the strategies. Yeah, so you have readily available talents that can maneuver or drive the business forward. At the same time, you adopt with the technologies that are available. Yeah, so that's certainly one of the area that the organizations can explore. Yeah,
Okay,
so
all right.
especially for example, in we talk about talent acquisitions, we need someone who really good in the overall talent human resources department. At the same time, we probably adopt some of the AI into the screening tools.
Right.
Yeah.
Because the more I'm attending conferences or listening to different HR professionals, I'm already hearing them experiment with generative AI in different aspects of the HR policies and practices already, right? So I'm
Mm-hmm.
just looking at, would this create certain level of efficiencies, right? There are some questions that's coming through. I'm going to be reading out a question that has come through, right? We are seeing many of our younger talent, right, from Malaysia moving to Singapore, right? Mainly due to
Mm-hmm.
the salary currency. So the first question is remuneration still a big factor?
Well, surprisingly, based on the reports that carry out by my organizations, which to be launched somewhere end of this week. Yeah, so surprisingly, it's no longer the top priority, to be honest. Yeah, so the report suggested that remunerations, in fact, um, categorized or fall under fifth place. So
Oh,
first, they are considering good work-life balance.
okay,
Second,
work-life
followed
balance,
by the healthy environment.
healthy
And then the
environment.
third is actually connection with co-worker, which is the environment. We talk about providing better living condition lifestyle. And fifth, it's competitive salary.
Nice. Eiling, quick
Yeah.
question. If our guests want to have access to this report, where do they go?
Well, I'm still waiting for the report to be launched, to be honest.
Okay,
I'll
okay,
certainly be
great,
able
great,
to
great.
share. Yeah,
Excellent, excellent.
so
Do let us
that,
know. Do let us
yeah,
know, and we will just blast it
sure.
up because I think this is good information. Because
Yeah.
apart from pay, what we are hearing is work-life balance, a healthy environment, and all the other factors, right? And pay
Mm-hmm.
only comes in at the fifth level.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, right.
Sorry,
And there is
Ashok. Sorry, Ailing, I'm just curious, right? When you talk about this new data, is it we're talking about Malaysian talent moving to Singapore or Singapore talent
No,
in
no,
Singapore?
it is. No, it is not only Malaysia specific. In fact, it's actually covered the whole Asia Pacific. So it's from
yeah.
12
Right.
markets. So of course, the
Okay.
report eventually will dissect down to different markets. So you'll be able to see, for example, Malaysia, what are the
Okay.
top priorities, and then Singapore,
Okay.
what are the top priorities? Yeah.
Hmm.
So I
Thank you.
think many a times, if I would be able to comment, younger generation going to Singapore, chances are partly it's also because of the career developments that they're looking at. Yeah,
Okay.
because someone coming from Singapore, I was in Singapore for about 8 years, right? So
Hmm.
whether or not at that point where the only reason why I'm going to Singapore is it based on monetary? Yes, I like it because it's 2.5 times then, and now it's 2.5. But eventually, it's really the career developments, the exposure that we have.
Okay,
Yeah,
so then I have a
correct.
follow-up question from also one of our happy viewers, right? Followers, right? The question is retention seems to be a big problem for most organizations. What can organizations do to retain their staff?
To be honest, jump into the material which going to be launched end of the week because it also gives tips to hiring managers on how can you retain your members. Yeah, because the topic is about attracting and retaining talent.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay,
so I have a snippet. Basically, 89% of the hiring managers in Asia Pacific have got challenges in attracting talents, and 86% of them have got challenges in retaining. So their reports will give you the tips. Yeah, I hope I can share, but I run through with my marketer. I think no, you can only have this minimal information shared. Once it's launched, by end of the week, it will be there, and it
okay.
covers 12 markets across Asia Pacific. Yeah.
No, no, wonderful.
Brilliant.
I'm looking forward to the report. And so therefore, what we are still seeing is yes, acquisition is a challenge, and retention is a challenge. And we've been talking about okay, we've been reading a lot of reports also about having a purpose-led organization is important, and one that also helps develop the people is
Yep.
also important. You know, and I guess this is where a lot of organizations are facing to. And would that be a strategy that companies need to be very deliberate in the way they look at and helping develop talents?
Absolutely, because I think every one of us, even ourselves, we look for growth.
Okay.
Yeah, in our
Okay.
career. Yeah,
All right.
correct. That's certainly one of the factor where, or probably a deciding point to why they stay or leave the organizations. Yeah.
Right, right. And I think that brings up also, oh, wow, we only got another 3 more minutes before we end so fast, and Mala wants to ask the last question, I think. But you know what it brings up? It brings up the fact that this is where mindful leadership is important because we need to be mindful about the trends that's going to be affecting us, especially with the demographics of the new generation, what their needs, their concerns, their challenges are, right? And at the same time, how do we now align our organization from being purpose driven, development focused for growth, not only for the business, but the individuals, to be able to align and get the best energies from people, you know? Hmm.
Yeah.
Muller, one last question on your end. Oh, is she frozen? She's looking like Mona Lisa now, so I think I better go. No, you got
Am I
a
good?
you got a question. All right, you got a question. All right,
Yes.
you got one last question and wrap it up.
Okay, we'll just wrap it up. So beyond business needs, right, which is immediate results, and already spoken. When we want to get the right talent at the top leadership level, what are the main derailers that doesn't allow us to acquire the right talent at the top leadership? So beyond business needs, like beyond getting short-term results that we have already spoken about, what are other considerations that derails us from getting the right talent?
There are many potential derailer, to be honest. Yeah. So the first one is really lack of a well-defined visions. We talk about that, and in fact, I just encountered a while ago where I have candidates attend an interview with the country leadership, and end up he couldn't have all the questions addressed or answered, and he doesn't know exactly what's the business directions resulted to a good talent. Do I want to join the organizations? Even if I'm being selected for second interview, do I want to attend? Yeah, so that is a big derailer, to be honest. Yeah,
Wow.
so without a clear visions, especially about what's the business directions and what is the key achievements that business is looking for, right? Yeah, so it just
So what
fresh my
you're
mind.
saying,
Yeah.
yeah, that's a good one. What I'm hearing or what you're saying is that leaders better because that could be a derailer in attracting talent. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. All
Yeah,
right.
correct.
Okay, I'm
Minutes. So
not
I'm
too
just going
sure.
to ask the question. Can you see it?
Yes. Okay. So, Sri Kwan Yong Wong has put up a question on there, which is kind of related to what she already said earlier. The market is seeing the employment tenure in younger talent is getting shorter, and it seems like becoming a norm. Do you see retention is still a concern for future organization? Organization will need to get used to talent that just come in and out like a revolving door.
Well, I said, despite it's actually happening a lot, we shouldn't take it as a norm, right?
Okay.
Yeah, so generally, the younger generations come and go simply because of one thing. I think they can be impatient. Yeah, impatient can be because they know what they want. They have the clarity on what they want,
Mhm.
and their learning capability or speed can be faster than what the knowledge that they can gain from the organizations. Yeah, so which mean maybe organizations may need to change the L&D or training programs or growth program for their members. Yeah, but certainly if let's say people come and go, it may disrupt the business. It
Sure.
may also give a wrong impressions to any potential talent out there. Many
Sure.
a times we
Mm.
encounter is that it's a high attrition in company A. Do I need to be concerned about?
Mm.
So it's certainly not something that we should take it lightly, to be honest.
Okay.
Yeah, correct.
Okay.
Mm.
Thank you for that question, Sri Kwan
Nice.
Yong. And thank you again, Eileen. That brings us to the end of 1 hour. And I've got some more questions to go, but no worries. But we're looking forward to the VDI executive research that you're going to be sharing. Do let us know, and we'll also blast it out on our end. We'd love to learn more from you. But thank you again for sharing all your wisdom. So, in a very quick summary, what I've learned from you today is yes, we need to be mindful as a leader. And in the talent acquisition space for organizations, yes, you need to be aware about the trends that are coming through for the future, right? Who are the
Yep.
demographics that's going to be part of the organization? You need to be very clear about your purpose as an organization. Most importantly, what I'm hearing is the way you develop talent is also going to be important, regardless of whether you do a plug and play situation or whether you actually use technology, right, to develop people and processes efficiencies and all that. Thank you so very much, AiLing.
Thank you.
And yes, Muller, thank you too.
And Tavaranidan Kogilan, and that's a very unique name, Tava, says thank you for the talk. So Eiling, so he's really benefited a lot. He's probably been listening quietly. Eiling, thank you very much for having the clarity and leading us through a core topic, probably one that every business needs to pay attention to, giving us the clarity. And of course, we are all looking forward to see the latest research. So with that, we'll say bye to Eiling, and as we say bye to Eiling, Ashok, you're back with me.
Yep.
All right.
All right.
So with that,
Okay.
yeah, thank you everybody for joining us today. Tawa, thank you very much again. And for all those who quietly join us at the background, thank you very much for joining us. Until we meet you next week with another interesting guest, of course, on mindful leadership, but slightly a different theme. So with that, this is Mother signing off, still from KLIA.
And this is Ashok from Singapore. Have a good week, everyone. Bye bye.
Bye.